All righty, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the neighborhood advisory board meeting for Ward 3. Um, let's go ahead and get started. Can we start with the roll call, please?
Sure thing. Gabriel Maya,
Here.
Marie Rodriguez is absent at this time. Jürgen Hohn,
Here.
Anthony Dispenseri is absent at this time. Sarah Horseman, here. Valerie Tilson,
Here.
Ed Park will be absent tonight. Pablo Nava Duran,
Here.
Lauren Kroll,
Here.
Corey Munson, and Marie Rodriguez is here as well. With that, we have a quorum of the Ward 3 Neighborhood Advisory Board.
Fantastic. Let's go ahead and continue on with the public comment.
Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the NAB's agenda. The NAB may not take action upon any matter not agendized on today's agenda. When you are called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name and you will be afforded 3 minutes. If you're an attendee in the Zoom meeting and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand at this time. With that, Chair, I don't have any public comment registered for this item tonight.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on with the approval of the agenda of March 3rd, 2026. Could I get a motion in a second?
Marie Rodriguez, for the record, I'll make a motion that we approve today's agenda.
Sarah Horseman, I will second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Very good. Motion passes. And let's go ahead and approve the minutes for February 3rd, 2026. Can I get a motion and a second from the group?
I motion to approve. Sorry, Lauren Kroll, I motion to approve.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Very good. So let's continue with item A5 with the council liaison report.
I do not have Vice Mayor Martinez online, so if you'd like, we can come back to this item at the end of the agenda.
Fantastic. Let's continue with A6 with the staff liaison report.
Sure thing. Staff Liaison Callie Shy. I don't have a training or a presentation tonight, just some updates. At tomorrow's Planning Commission meeting, we're going to see the Trago Grid battery energy storage system. So if you want to see how that plays out, you can watch the meeting tomorrow. Councilmember Martinez has his Ward 3 Biggest Little Council Connect scheduled for April 4th from 10 to 11 a.m. at the Wheatberry Baking Company. That's 7499 Longley Lane. He'd love for any members of the NAB to join him and be there to engage with the public. Additionally, we're going to implement some timing on NAB member questions and comments today. We're going to do 2 3-minute rounds just to try to keep items moving, especially on those development projects. So we're going to set your timers. We'll have 2 rounds and we'll just test that out and see how that goes. That's all I have for the NAB tonight.
Fantastic. Let's move on with the item B1. Do we have the presenters present?
Yes, we do. That's the Talus Valley.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Eric Hasty. I'm with Wood Rogers, and I'm representing the applicants for this item, Talus Valley LLC. So tonight we're going to be talking about villages 16A and 16B within the Talus Valley Town Center. So for reference, this is about an 18.5 acre site. It's located within planning areas 15 and 16 of the handbook. There is currently the zoning designation within the handbook is multifamily residential and neighborhood commercial. There is a teeny bit of the mixed neighborhood and then parks, greenways, and open space for that area to the east. So 16A and 16B are proposed as traditional townhomes. This is allowed within both the multifamily and the neighborhood commercial zoning in the PUD. We are proposing about 185 units altogether between the two villages. Village 16A and 16B, there are some differences, and I could kind of go over those with you. Village 16A is 81 lots. They're going to be proposed at a 3 to 7 pack, so 3 to 7 units per building. And then for Village 16B, we have 104 lots, and those are proposed 4 to 6 units per building. So looking at the landscape plan here, I'll kind of go over some of the differences between the two. First of all, we are proposing the same roadway throughout. There's going to be sidewalks on each side. This is a little more narrow roadway than what's been proposed in the other tentative maps for Talus Valley. This is about 37-foot right away. And the reason for the reduction is because there is going to be no parking that's going to be allowed on the streets. So we do have parking pockets proposed throughout the development, as well as parking that's going to be provided for, there's 2 car garages with each one of these units, as well as 2 parking spaces for the driveway. They're going to be a minimum of 20-foot long driveways. So Village 16A, the way it's set up, so everything that's shown there in the green is going to be the common area. Those trees that we are showing are the street trees. There's most likely going to be trees within the common area, so within the green area that you're seeing. And the way 16A is set up is the front doors for these units are accessed by the driveway. So more like a traditional house, with the exception of the 2 units on the side. The front door is located on the side. And then that area that's in the back is going to be a private backyard. So that area that's not shown as green, showed yellow from the edge of the building, that's going to be a private backyard. And then on the other side for Village 16B, the front door is actually located on the other side of where the garage is and the driveway. So the front door is located on the other side, except for the exception of the 2 units on the side. Those will be accessed from the side. So we did show sidewalk proposed throughout this common area. It doesn't mean that 16A won't have sidewalk and trails throughout that common area. It's just we're showing connectivity to the front doors for Village 16B. Again, on Village 16B, there is going to be a private front area, gated front yard. So there will be a little private yard for each one of these units. And then the driveways and everything will be for the individual units themselves. So looking at this a little bit closer, this kind of shows what I was talking about, where you'll have the lot on 16A is going to be the actual unit itself. And then you'll have these little limited common areas that are for the residents in the front as well as in the rear. Again, there is 2 car garages. There's going to be 2 car garages with each one of these units, as well as a 2-car driveway. The lot setbacks for the units themselves are going to be 0 lot lines, like a traditional townhome. And then with the perimeter is going to be applying to the setbacks within the PUD for each one of those land uses. Looking at 16B, it's very similar. They'll have a private yard as well as the each driveway. And lot setbacks are the same. 0 lot line for the actual units themselves, and then the setbacks themselves will be applied to the perimeter of the both villages. So one of the big things with this handbook is showing that we do provide pedestrian connectivity. So that's what this is highlighting, and showing that we're going to be connecting to all the other pedestrian amenities that have already been approved in the previous tentative maps within the town center. I will like to also state that the improvements for the backbone infrastructure that will be serving this, so the Town Center Parkway as well as the Talus Valley Parkway, they have been approved by the city of Reno. So those are going to be starting construction here and will be anticipated to be completed prior to the start of this tentative map. So with that, you'll have that 10-foot sidewalk on Talus Valley Parkway that will connect into 16B. And there's also going to be another 10-foot multi-use path along Veterans. And this will allow safe routes to schools at the intersections of Veterans Parkway, as well as South Meadows and what is now Echo Avenue. The school districts are for DePauli Middle School and then Double Diamond Elementary School, and then for DeMonte Ranch High School. So with that, we did submit the application on January 26th. We are here tonight at the Ward 3 NAB. The city of Reno is reviewing this application currently, as well as all the other reviewing agencies. The city will provide a staff report, and the planning commission meeting is currently scheduled for April 1st. So that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions. Going through anything else. So, thank you.
Ray Rodriguez for the record. It says that these are single-family attached townhomes, so they're going to be sold individually. They're not meant to be rentals unless the owner buys it to rent it.
Correct.
Correct? And they're going to have 2-car garages and 2-car driveways.
Yep.
Now, just to be frank, is this going to be the size for like 2 small Hondas? Or is somebody with a big GMC pickup and a GMC Denali
Yeah.
SUV going to be able to park both their cars in the garage and or the driveway?
Yeah. So with those, with the 2-car garage as well as the driveways, that provides enough parking for code, right? Code requires about 2 of these, 2 per unit. So we're providing 4 with each one of these units. So the parking stalls that are proposed throughout the development are for that type of purpose.
So they're to what the code minimum for that size of garage?
The
Or
minimum is about 2 parking spaces per unit. It's really based on the size of the unit.
Okay.
So they're already going over with just the 2-car garage and the driveway. And then we're providing additional parking as well throughout the development.
Yeah, because I mean, I see these places, people get there and they can park 1 large car and that's pretty much it in the driveway.
Yeah, and that was the concern of the applicant too. And so they wanted to make sure that they were providing enough parking for that type of stuff.
Okay, and how much additional parking? Because it sounds like if there's not going to be parking in the street, and I do know that we have problems with this issue in other parts of the city where there's really no parking on the street, but it's not enforced because there's really nowhere for grandma and grandma to park. There's nowhere, if they're having a birthday party, nowhere for the guests to park. So I'm presuming that the additional parking is meant for guests, but people that have these big cars that can't get both of them in the driveway are going to be taking those up.
Right. Yeah, and I'm not sure how to like what the actual number is from what is required to what we're providing, but I can definitely look into that. But it's definitely more, I would imagine it's more than double, just because of, like I said, it's kind of based on how large the unit is by City of Reno code of how many parking spaces you have to acquire, but generally it's 2 units or 2 parking spaces per unit. We're providing 4 with each one of those units and then the additional parking in the parking pockets. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anthony Espanzeri for the record. Can you show that last slide, please? I'd be curious to see, you were talking about, I saw a future neighborhood commercial, and I'm really sort of concerned about the residential experience and having more, like this looks like it might in the future be connected to some sort of commercial area. And it'd be nice if I know that everything is designed around cars, for parking and all this stuff, but people need to live in these communities, and the walking experience to whatever is going to be there in the future is sort of important, I think, to that. Obviously, it's nice that you're going to have walking paths to the parks and some of the other areas, but I'm curious. I mean, like to her point, I do think if people put a whole bunch of stuff in their garage, you're effectively only going to get 2 parking spaces. But I know that you are providing at least 2 available if they do that per code. But I guess my question is, what else is planned to the north of that, and is it going to feel more like a walkable community where people want to interact and walk, or is it just sort of going to be a car community?
Yeah. So the whole goal with what we proposed in the Taos Valley PUD, right, was to make this a more walkable community. And so along Taos Valley Parkway, which is going to be to the west of Village 16A, there's going to be a 10-foot wide multi-use path on there. And then there's going to be an additional one, which you can kind of see to the east of 16B. Those are all going to connect to the Town Center Parkway and provide pedestrian access to the commercial neighborhood commercial. So the amenities will be in place for people to do that. So.
Sorry, Anthony Dispensary again, but do you have an idea of what might be planned for that? Is it restaurants? Is it office space? Is it, medical? Do you know what might be walkable for these folks who buy these houses or these townhomes?
So, nothing's set in stone yet, but really the goal is for this town center, right, is to be something kind of like what they offer at Ranchera, right, where it's like small restaurants, bars, little boutique shops, stuff like that. That area that's in red there could potentially be an elementary school. So depending on whether the school district wants to put an elementary school there or not, but then the rest of it is most likely going to be commercial or even could be multifamily.
That's helpful. The last question I had, I know we talked about with this project specifically around flooding and flood concerns in the past. Have there been any changes on that front to what's been proposed based on the concerns that were raised or anything, or, specifically around the flooding potential issue for this area?
Yeah, so when we went through this, a Clomar, the flood area has been changed, right? That's been approved by the Army Corps of Engineers. So that mass grading that you see going out there right now is basically creating those areas. And so with each one of these tentative maps, they're looking at how that to what was approved and making sure that it's in line and they're not going into those areas. And if they are, they're properly mitigating it with some other area. So those have been addressed and will continue to be addressed throughout this process.
Marie Rodriguez, I don't know if this is something that you would know, but how is this community going to be marketed? Is it going to be gated? And is it going to be, marketed like luxury townhomes or anything like that? Or is it going to be marketed more towards your average person who is looking for an affordable home? Or is it going to be considered a more exclusive place?
So, with a joint venture, this is owned by Toll and Lennar. And so 16A is going to be owned by Toll and 16B will be a Lennar product. I believe I'm not sure if they're going to be gated or not. And I don't really know yet how they're going to be marketed.
Well, so got a question about the new elementary school. So you make a point. So, Donner Spring Elementary School, the capacity it's not overcrowded. They're not overcrowded yet. So, but we saw recently that they rezoned all the southern half Dawson kid to Donner Spring. So if a Taos Valley will build on, so I know I believe Donner Spring will be overcrowded. I believe the build a new school that can relieve overcrowded from Donner Spring, Double Diamond, or Pearl Kias, my school. So I think that's a good head start from there.
Yeah, and that's something the school district will look at throughout the year and everything, and make sure if they need that it's going to be balanced. So there's that option for them if they need it. All right.
Any other questions?
Anthony Dispensary, one more. Is this an HOA property, or will this be subject to an HOA, or
Most likely, yeah, it's going to be an HOA.
We have Valerie online as well.
Go ahead, Valerie.
Valerie, you're still muted if you're speaking.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, Valerie Tilson for the record. Are there any future plans for a plus 55 community in the Talos development?
At this time, we do not have any of those that have been proposed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think we're good for now.
Chair, I
Okay.
just want to check on public comment first, unless there's any more questions from the board.
Do we have any, do we have any public comment on this matter?
I don't have any in person. If there's anyone online who'd like to make comment, please raise your hand at this time. I'm not seeing any, so we can move on. If the board doesn't mind going back to the council liaison report, Councilmember Martinez has some special guests here today.
All right, let's go ahead.
Good evening, board members. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for adjusting your agenda for me today. As you can remember, maybe a year and a half ago, we launched the Community Champions Award through the city of Reno to recognize some of our unsung heroes within our community that are provided either backpacks or free haircuts, any sort of service to our community. And so I'm happy to come forward this quarter today to share with you some of the community champions that we awarded this past quarter, so the fourth quarter of 2025. Some of those members are in the audience. So as I speak about you all, if you could join me up front, that would be amazing. And we're going to have a slideshow. We'll go on to the next slide. So our first person is going to be Mr. Jose Velasquez, who's in the crowd with us. He's the proud owner of A Toda Madre Tattoo, who used to be on Wells, and now he's over on Gentry. And one of the cool things about what he's done is obviously provided free gifts to students and partnered with our local schools. And he also has a very cool Santa costume from what I hear, and he's dressed up as Santa in the past. And so part of the reason I wanted to highlight him was just his contributions to our community, growing up in the neighborhood of Worth, in our neighborhoods, and understanding the value of giving back to our community. And so I'm really proud to stand beside Mr. Velasquez, and I'll give him a little bit of time to talk about how he contributed in his own way to our community.
Good afternoon. Well, thank you for the amazing award. It's just I started my business back in 2013, and then in Wells, in the Wells district, and I decided that I wanted to dress up as Santa and have people come over, kids come over that couldn't afford to take pictures with Santa, and during those times, because during Christmas, people go through some hard times. So I decided that I'd put my part and dress up as Santa and go to a tattoo shop and get pictures with Santa. So that's how that started. And then it's been like that ever since. Gone to a couple schools. I've done, I dress up as an Easter Bunny sometimes too. I have a costume for the Easter Bunny and stuff. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So much. So that's our first one. Karen, unfortunately, wasn't able to join us today, but she was also gifted. Kenya, sorry. Yeah, my apologies for that. It should have been Kenya Velasquez. That's on my fault. I think that the reason we wanted to highlight her, I think it was interesting. It was either Congressman his office or one of the senators. They nicknamed her the Mrs. Santa Claus, the godmother of Santa Claus Christmas, because she also participated in providing free gifts to children at Ecoloder Elementary School, and making sure that our kids in our neighborhoods also had an opportunity to celebrate and had something under their tree for Christmas. And so I want to make sure we highlight another valuable member of our community, Kenya, who's a hairstylist and notorious, which is over on Ari near Carniceria Samber, and the forgetting the makers on Ari district that they're doing. Yeah, in the Audi district. And so some of the new art spaces that are coming in there, where the old Lowe's used to be at, I'm sure, I'm blanking on the name right now, but
Renovation.
yeah, they're doing like a whole bunch of artists and pop-ups and the generator. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so that she's in that same area that the generator is located. So huge thank you to Kenya for providing the kids in the neighborhood with free gifts. We can move on to the next slide. And Karen Monreal, who is in the audience with us today as well. I'd love to invite her up to join me here at the podium, recognizing her for all of the opportunities that she's provided during workshops to give legal advice to our community members who may need that as they're navigating the immigration system. I know that she has been very gracious with her time during these workshops, and she stayed after to answer questions. Her line was one of the longest ones that I saw when I was at the workshops, and so I'd love for her to speak a little bit more about the work that she does, who she is, and how she's given back to our community. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for this award. It's really amazing to be able to be here today. I'm an immigration attorney, and I think, regardless of what the political views are, I think we can all agree that immigration is a hot topic right now. So I'm very glad that I'm able to work with the community on a daily basis and be able to answer their questions and be able to help them achieve that dream or keep them safe. So I work on a daily basis with the community, and we host workshops, and there's also shows that we do where we answer the community questions regarding immigration. So I'm very grateful that I get to work with them every single day and be able to answer the questions that people are scared to ask, that I can be there and help them answer these questions via messaging or via phone, all in a goal to keep everybody safe. So I am grateful to be able to do this on a daily basis. I mean, I love what I do, and thank you for having me here today.
So the last one is Leonel de la Trinidad, who we also wanted to highlight because he provided, oh man, I'm probably gonna get the number wrong, but it was like 800 turkeys for different families in our community. So I'll say that again, 800 turkeys along with full meals for most of those. That included stuffing and all the canned goods that they needed to provide their Thanksgiving dinner to family members. And so him and his partner, who are the owners of H&D Construction, have been good community members and provided, a good meal for our families to enjoy during Thanksgiving. And so wanted to make sure we highlighted him. I don't think he was able to attend with us either, but wherever he is, want to say our thanks and show appreciation for the 800 turkeys that he provided for our different families in our community. And I know a lot of those were given out at different community events, and Claudia, who's here in the crowd with us, can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like people from 6 to 8 different zip codes were able to receive some of these turkeys and services that were provided at the community events. And so, Claudia, if you want to come up and just share a little bit about the community events, about how Leonel has contributed to the community, and whatever else you'd like to say.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for having us. And it's really good that you guys are able to offer these Community Champions Award, because we have so many unsung heroes, people that are working so hard and doing so many things from the heart. And they're not expecting anything in return. Lionel is one of them. We actually had more than just 6 zip codes. We had 17 zip codes, which it had every single zip code in Reno except one, which was the one by Mount Rose. That was the only zip code we didn't serve. Olive Sparks, Gerlach, Fernley, Carson City, Incline, and Verdi. So this is at a food pantry out in Sun Valley. It's called Operation Revival. We operate the first and third Saturday of every month. So this Saturday we'll be there. So if you have nothing to do and you would like to come and volunteer, please do so. But him being able to say, here's all these turkeys to give out to the community, just in that event alone, he gave 256 turkeys. So being able to do that, and a family being able to have a meal for Thanksgiving is amazing. Now, if we look at the other individuals that were awarded today, Karen Monreal being able to do community forums out When everything broke at the beginning of the year, there was huge community forums. And she came in pro bono, and there was long lines, like Miguel said, waiting to have a free consultation. We would literally have to like move her because the crowd was like, we need to talk to her. We need to know what's going on. What's going to happen with my family? What's going to happen with my children? What's going to happen with my belongings, my house? So for her giving her time at huge events, over 1,200 people showing up to these events is amazing. Her being able to host an immigration show where people could call in or send via Facebook messages saying, this is, my question, and for her to answer. I think it's amazing that she's being able to do so. Also for Thanksgiving, she provided meals at the food pantry. Also, we served over, I believe it was 200 families. So those little generous things that they don't expect anything in return is huge. Then you have Kenya from Notorious Salon, for her to say the school needs gifts because the Toys for Tots had said that they would only going to sponsor one class. And she said, what do you mean only one class is going to have gifts? What happens to the rest of the school? And for her to step up and say, I am going to make sure every child has a gift. And not only just Echoloader, but there was a preschool and a daycare that she also sponsored, about probably like over 500 gifts. And then you have Santa Claus, for him to be going to our Title I schools, for our kids to be able to have a picture with Santa. When if you go to the mall, how expensive is it to be able to have a picture with Santa? So for him to be able to, for you to go to his tattoo shop, which is the first Chicano-owned tattoo shop, but then you have Santa in there, that's super cool. But then he goes to our schools. Then that way there's no expense to the schools, to the teachers or anything, especially, a Title I school, we don't have money. So for him to offer that services of taking the day off, going to the schools, I think it's very beautiful. So I do thank you all for having this Community Champion Award. Thank you, Councilman Martinez. I think recognizing our unsung heroes, it's beautiful because they're doing it from the heart. So I do appreciate your time. Thank you.
I believe that was my last slide. And the only update I had, I will just mention that tomorrow the council is meeting to talk about our budget. So if you all have any comments, concerns, priorities you want me to voice up to during that meeting when we discuss the budget and allocations and priorities for the next fiscal year, feel free to either mention them now or I will hang around after the meeting and we can chat offline. Other than that, I'm here to answer any questions or hear any comments if you have anything for me.
Give a reminder for the record. Could you refresh our minds on the April 4th event that you're having? What is it about, and how can we, as the NAB, help you with this event?
Yeah, great point. Thank you so much for the reminder. So on April 4th, I am hosting Biggest Little Council Connect, which is a program that the council started to try to provide organic opportunities to meet with our community members outside of an official forum or capacity like this on the dais. So we will be over at Wheatberry Baking Company, which is at 7499 Longley Lane in Reno, talking to community members from 10 until 11 or so, depending on how many folks show up. So if you all are available, I know there was conversation during the last board meeting to have sort of a social event. So if you all want to come hang out with me and make that one of your social events, you're definitely welcome to come talk with me, talk to any of the community members that show up. Our communications team they have a plan in place to make sure that we promote that event and get some community members out there. So any support with getting you, your families, your friends, your neighbors out there to discuss any concerns with me or yourselves, obviously, as the Ward 3 Neighborhood Advisory Board members and representatives would be super helpful. So you're all welcome to come, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for the reminder on that.
Anthony Dispensary, just one quick question. I know budget finances are a bit tight right now. We had mentioned maybe looking at Stewart Park in the future at some point, and I didn't know if there was any movement on that or if that's appropriate to discuss during the budgeting process.
It is. Thank you for the reminder. I'll make sure to bring that up. Yeah. I think that's definitely in need of some some love, especially the basketball court in that area needs to get repaved. That's for sure.
Sarah Horseman for the record, and thank you for that wonderful presentation. It's good to have good news. Since it relates to since the city will be discussing budgets, and I'm sure contracts are a part of that, and I was going to do it during public comment, but since I have you right here, I know that there are from multiple sources reporting directly and in the news and from the community with concerns about the allegations on the Karma Box employees' alleged assaults. And I just felt it would be responsible as a voice of the neighborhood to bring that forward. And I don't know if that's something the city is considering reviewing, investigating if those are true and the implications. But I know the unhoused population has been a concern of our community and this NAB before. And so just want to put that like in a sensitive light, so to speak. So I know you may not be able to speak on it right now, just more like something to consider for contract review if that's part of budgets.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I think we'll be looking at our budgets overall, and it looks like you're getting a presentation from Director Van Buren later on in the agenda. So that might be, in terms of budget, a good question to ask. In terms of the investigation, I think that's outside of the city and the city council's purview, but I'm aware of what you're discussing, and we'll definitely make sure we're taking that into consideration as we move throughout the process. Thank you.
Miguel, probably not doing it for the records. So I feel like the school district did not listen to community, specifically at Dawson community area. So I know you have more connected in Dawson community than the rest of the school board members. But if a Dawson community doesn't want to go to a new elementary school Pine campus, if a community, if a school district did not want to listen, and you want to put, I want to make sure you could stand up to those school district demands and no. So that's a lesson learned for them. At least the new middle school Pine Caster will have a capacity, but it's up to next agenda.
Yeah, it sounds like some of the conversation that happened during the zoning advisory committee, some of those comments came out. So thank you for highlighting those again. Yeah.
Jorgen Hohen, thank you for what you do. One question on the budget. I remember a couple years ago, I was talking to the one auditor that we had, reporting to the city manager as a budget item. Could you see if there's a second auditor slot to be hired or to have more accountability? Is that a possible budget item, or is it too far down the process?
No, that's definitely a consideration. I would say that from my recollection of those conversations, I think the strategy or the direction that the city manager's office wanted to head in was to hire an outside agency or a firm to do those internal audits. But that's definitely something I can follow up with the city manager on and make sure that we keep that in mind and a priority during the budget.
Yeah, Jorgen Hohen again. I loved meeting the auditor that we did have 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and it was like, I love auditing. Numbers are my thing. It was like, yeah, we all need somebody like that in the city. So please take a look at it.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, member Tony. Anything else? If not, before you move on, if I could ask those folks that have gotten the Community Champion Award, if you could join us up front to get a picture of a group, and if you all would either come down from the dais or get close to each other on the top, either way, I would really appreciate us taking a group picture. Thank you so much for indulging me in that. I just want to
How are you? Students.
Yes.
You play Santa?
Yes.
Please squeeze in a little. Maybe go on your side.
Down here, this works. Oh.
I might squeeze in a little bit.
I played Santa before.
Where do you supposed to look?
I'll start with you first. Let's start with you on the right. Here, stop. Let's see. Middle. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good to see you. Yes. Thank you for asking.
Alrighty, let's go ahead and continue on with the agenda with the item B2. Do we have the presenters present? Very good. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kelly. Good evening. My name is Stacy Huggins. I'm with Wood Rogers, representing the Washoe County School District in this project. I will give you a brief presentation. So we're here tonight to talk about the Pine Middle School site. Some of you may be familiar or may have heard some previous or past discussions about this site being, there's a new email. Again, we're talking about the Pine Middle School site. Again, this is located over off of Neal Road and South McCarran intersection. It's about 16 acres in size. There is an existing 105,000 square foot two-story middle school on this site. And then all of the utilities and infrastructure are obviously in place for that school. In terms of just to talk about a little bit about logistics, to right across the street to the west is the Smith Ridge Elementary School. One of the reasons that we're here is that Smith Ridge Elementary School, which was built in 1965, is being closed.
Excuse me, it's 1976.
Sorry, I have 1976 for Pine, but 1965 per the county assessor's data for Smith Ridge.
Correct.
Okay. In either case, they are older schools that need to be modernized. And so this is an opportunity to modernize the schools in this area. And again, that will involve closing Smith Ridge, and then taking those elementary students and actually putting them in a new school, a new elementary school, where the Pine Middle School building was located. So I put this slide in here just so that you can see the master plan and the zoning. The master plan is public, quasi-public. The zoning is public facilities. So the middle school, or excuse me, the elementary school that's proposed, again, on the Pine Middle School campus, is a permitted use on this site, but per Reno Municipal Code, any school that has a capacity of 400 students or more still needs a conditional use permit. So while it seems like a school should be permitted in a public facility zoning district, it is, but because we are bringing in a new school that will serve a little more than 800 students in terms of capacity, we're going through this conditional use permit process. Plus, because this project is adjacent to residential, as you can see there on the right, everything in that kind of brownish color is a residential zoning. We also have to address residential adjacency. So there are two parts to this conditional use permit, again, for enrollment capacity and residential adjacency. So just a little bit about the details. I mentioned demolition of the Pine Middle School building. So that 105,000 square foot building is going to be completely demoed. The parking and the drop-off areas and the outside play areas will all be demolished and rebuilt with a new two-story school that has been part of Washoe County's facility modernization plan for a number of years. So this is not new. As I said at the beginning, you may have heard about this through numerous discussions that have been happening over the years. I also mentioned the enrollment capacity of 850 students in this new school. Looking at the site details for this, so just so you can see kind of how it lays out, we have oriented this school so that the front of the school focuses towards Neal Road, where there is a parent drop-off area that circulates through the front there. There are 3 lanes for parent drop-off, so they will come in from the south, drive to the north, and then come out on the north end, where they will be able to go either north towards Filbert or south towards McCarran. So on the north side of the parcel at Filbert Road, you'll see there are 2 new staff parking areas, as well as a new bus loading and unloading area, and then an additional parent drop-off area for residents that may live north off of Filbert Lane. So those areas were intentionally designed that way to separate bus loading from parent drop-off, and then students, so that there's a safety mechanism to that, to make sure that everyone is safe as students are getting off the bus. They're not interacting or interfacing with parents dropping off their students. There's some new playground design that's part of this project, intended to create more of an outdoor engaging experience. I mentioned these schools were very old, so there's some opportunity here to bring in some new playground equipment and make it much more elementary school focused, and then more friendly and engaging for these students. One of the things I want to note just about both the building design and the site design, the school district did have community forums about this project. So what you're seeing here is, took into consideration the feedback that they got during those forums. So the architecture, the site design, all of that is something that the community had a piece in helping to design for this. The building details, I think I touched on that a little bit. Again, the existing building is 105,000 square feet, so the new building will be 103,000 square feet, just slightly smaller. The proposed building height is 38 feet. That's a 2-story building. Code would allow 45 feet. We're not getting anywhere near that in terms of the maximum height. And again, the design and the colors that you see here, and this would be the side of the building facing to the north, are, based on community input during those forums and neighborhood meetings. Landscaping and screening. So, when we started looking at this project and laying the building out and here, screening and landscaping was something that was important to the school district. So you'll see on this site, there's quite a bit of landscaping. The softball fields remain untouched. So what is there today will also remain there in the future. But there's quite a bit more landscaping around the perimeter of the building. There's also proposed to be 6-foot CMU walls where the drop-off areas are located adjacent to existing residential. So in the northeast corner, I don't have a pointer, so I apologize, but in the northeast corner where the parent turnaround is off of Filbert, thank you. There will be a 6-foot CMU wall along that shared property line to mitigate for noise and traffic impacts to those existing residences opposite that and the daycare center to the adjacent parcel. And then there's also another 6-foot CMU wall down in the southwest corner. Yes, right there. Thank you. To also screen the noise from that drive-in or that access point from those existing residences to the south of the project. So we've taken a lot of care to be sensitive to the existing residences around here, while also in terms of, and I'm going to touch on this next, pedestrian access to and from the school, those design of the building and the landscaping and the screening plays into making sure that there are safe paths for young children that walk to this school. We are anticipating a high number of students to walk from the surrounding existing higher density housing projects in that area. So those apartments that are there now have a number of elementary students that walk to school to Smithridge. We anticipate now they'll be walking across the street a little further. So we've made sure that there is sidewalks throughout the project, as well as sidewalks connecting those neighborhoods to the new school. We have looked at safe routes to school policies, and we know that we're going to meet all of what we can to make sure that children are safe getting to school. I talked early on about the separation between the parent drop-off area on Neal Road and the separation for the school buses, and then that second parent drop-off area. It was very important to the school district that they take that into consideration, again, for the safety of the children. So I thank you for your time letting me go through that. I may have gone through it a little fast, so if there's questions, please, I'm here to answer them. I have a couple other folks on our team here. If I can't answer them, they might be able to.
Thank you. My name is Paul Naduan for the records. This is the design look fantastic.
Great.
I like it.
Great.
But the school colors and it should be based on the community of a Smithfield community. And I like the separation of parent drop off and the school buses. That's my top safety concerns. And then third, how about the shaded area? You know where the shaded area for New Orleans School Pine Campus is?
The shading area, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the building was designed with some very big roof overhangs, if you will, that are coming off the back of the school. And then there's also, Kelly, could you turn up the site, go to the site plan? Ooh. Hold on just one second while I get a site plan up there. I think the landscape plan is the best. There we go, right there. There is going to be a shade structure out kind of in the playground area, almost central to the area that's in gray there, so that there is some shade out there. So it's not just a big heat field where the children will have a place to go to get out of the sun while they're outside. In addition to the building overhangs that will also provide shade during the day.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Oh, yeah, that answered my question.
Okay, great.
Anthony Dispensary, I've got two questions. One, can you go to the second to last slide, please? I noticed, like in that picture, I've actually seen this in a couple of places before. Do you see how there's a button to cross on the right and there's not one on the left? I don't really know why the city has been doing that, but it's important to be able to cross in both directions. And I've actually observed this phenomenon in other places. So I don't know if this is a current actual photo or not, but it'd be something to pay attention to because it's important to be able to signal to cross in both, for kids in both directions.
I appreciate your comment. I think that just off the edge of this picture to the left, Yeah, you were left too. You can see there's a little bit of pad there. So I actually think this crosswalk kind of goes at a an angle. And so we just maybe don't see the other side.
Okay.
But we will definitely look into it. I appreciate the comment.
Yeah, because we do have a number of pedestrian crossings that don't have any buttons, and I know they've purchased some to make them safer, specifically across wells. There's so many of them, and it's just dangerous, honestly. But this one, hopefully, it's on both sides, and that would be great.
Sure.
And then the other question I had is specifically around the community engagement. I assume that there was an opportunity for the residents to sort of connect and share whatever concerns they have. I assume there's no outstanding concerns from those residents, but I just figured I would ask if you had any additional feedback come in or if that was part of the process.
Yeah, and I'm actually glad you brought that up because I forgot to mention. So the school district did have, again, a community meeting to talk about this early on. They had also scheduled a neighborhood community meeting. It was scheduled for 2 weeks ago, and we had that crazy snowstorm. So they canceled it and rescheduled it. It's actually happening tomorrow night at Pine Middle School. And so we are expecting, residents from the neighborhood to come and hear some version of this same presentation so we can get their feedback at that meeting then too.
Okay, so then ultimately, if they do have provide constructive feedback on what they're concerned about, you would incorporate that potentially.
I'd absolutely consider that.
Okay,
yes.
That's great. So tomorrow, Pine Middle, what time?
I think it starts at 6 o'clock. Is that 6? 5:30. I apologize.
Thank you.
Yeah. The only other thing I wanted to mention, this project in your agenda, I think it said we were going to Planning Commission in April. We are addressing some comments that we got from staff. So I anticipate this will probably be at Planning Commission in May now, not April. So I just wanted to put that on the record.
Marie Rodriguez. I love what's been going on with the school district with the renovations. I've been to some of the schools, my grandkids attend local schools, and I like that, especially that it looks like some of the schools have such similar floor plans that I can see how in an emergency situation, it just makes things so much easier.
Right.
So my niece's children used to go to this school, so I'm kind of sad that they didn't get to go to the new one. But I do have concerns about Neal Road, similar to what was mentioned before about the school crossings, because Neal Road, as it is 30 miles an hour and then goes down to 15, like near the park, Miguel Rivera, and then over by the schools, it goes down to 15. And some people are really good about it and do follow it. I think it helps that there's a police substation up the road. But some people, especially I think if they're not familiar with the neighborhood, don't even notice it or pay attention and just cruise down the road going 40. And I do know that there are some schools that have better crossings than others. And I just think that this is one of the schools that needs a safer crossing because it is a wide enough road and isn't terribly busy especially when you compare it to like Airway or the other streets that are in the area. I would like to see not just the school crossings where I can push the button, but like where it just flashes, more dramatically, like some of those stop signs that have red lights all the way around it. I would just like to make it more highly visible and maybe even consider speed controls, like, making, and I don't know what would involve with streets, but maybe putting, like bumps or something that force people to slow down. But that is a concern. Also, I think the city's been really good about implementing CEPTED, but I know that Washoe County is maybe, this is going through the school district. When it comes to like the walls or the landscaping, making sure that they're applying CEPTED to the design, exterior design. Do you know if that's being done?
So we did not get comments from CEPTED, but I can tell you that the walls that I mentioned, the screening walls, were I don't want to call a requirement. They were a request from planning staff that we provide those for screening purposes for noise and light mitigation. So I'm putting my faith in planning staff that they feel like there isn't a CEPTED issue by putting those there. As I said, we did not get comments from them on this project. So if we do, we will address them,
Mhm.
but we haven't gotten any of them yet.
Okay.
And just to go back to your prior comments about, flashing lights and signs, we can certainly take that back to the school district and ask them to consider it. We are looking at traffic and circulation in this area and doing an analysis. So that's definitely something that we can also consider and analyze as part of that.
Yeah, my job takes me in that area a lot daily when I work, and I have always had a concern for the schools in that area. I feel like it's unfortunate that they don't have a better visibility, and I do know that we do have, school police and, officers that, sometimes do watch those, but too often they just don't have the availability, the manpower to do it. And I feel like I've seen better control in other schools, and I think this is one school that really needs better control for the kids' safety.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis, Missouri, just one question on what you had mentioned before. There's the meeting tomorrow. What kind of notice was given for the rescheduling to the residents? I mean, are they all, I don't know how that works if you have a 2-week rescheduling, just out of curiosity.
I don't know the answer to your question. I wasn't involved in the noticing, so I do not have an answer for you. I can certainly get an answer and get it back to Callie, hopefully before tomorrow night's meeting. If you would like, I can send something back to Callie tomorrow.
No, it's not for me, obviously. I don't actually live anywhere near this area. It's really more for those residents who live adjacent that if they have a concern that they can address it at that meeting, it sounds like that's the opportunity.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have an answer for you.
Corey Munson. I'm just curious, does the school district have a vision for the property that the current elementary school is on after it gets demolished?
So, there has been, if you look at the modernization plan, there's some discussion in there about repurposing schools that are being discontinued. My understanding is they haven't nailed down a specific plan for what they're going to do with that building yet, but it will likely get repurposed for some other, whether it's early learning facility or some, after school program type use. Please don't hold me to that. I don't know. I just know that those are the kind of uses that probably would happen in that building, but it hasn't been determined yet. Yeah, sorry, I didn't.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to try and help answer that question because we're trying to get the word out more and more. We have leadership has created a repurposing and renaming school committee. So that we have a very formal process for a lot of these closed schools that are going to kind of happen more and more. And so it's a new process, but we do have it on our website. It is literally called the Repurposing and Naming Committee. So, you can go to that website, you can fill out your information, and then you can look at all the schools that are planned to be repurposed and sign up for information and updates as things happen. So just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Get a reminder for the record. I wanted to ask a couple of questions. First, is this also including kindergarten through 6th grade, or what are the grades that are going to be for the school?
Yeah, so this will be pre-K through 5th grade elementary school.
Okay, very good. And yeah, it's something that I also notice a lot in that area, especially at night. That's something. It's a mixture between miles, between the city of Reno and school district. But that area, that corner on Filbert and Neil Road, there's no lighting at all, and it's really hard for people to cross the streets at night. I'm personally,
site plan.
I go to the church right there on the corner, the LDS church. So that corner right there on Filbert and Neil Road, that whole area it's a dark spot. There's no lighting at all, and so there are the crosswalks and the signage, the signage and all that kind of stuff, but at night there's no light at all. So it's really hard for people to cross the street. So sometimes there's been close calls that I've seen people are crossing the street and then there's a car coming out of the nowhere. Obviously, there's not enough visibility. They're not going to see the people crossing and stuff like that. So I think it's a good opportunity for both the city, or especially right now that we're talking about specifically the school district, because if they're going to have, the same issues they have now, even if they have school activities after school hours and that involves people going crossing the streets, regardless, they still need the light.
Sure.
And so that's something that I do really recommend. I absolutely love the idea of the parent drop off of on Filbert specifically, because that'll take care of all the apartments up north and anything on the west side or on the east side or anybody coming in. There's two options for the parents to go through, so that's a pretty good idea right there. And but yeah, mainly I really want to emphasis will be the lighting around the whole property, specifically on the Near Road and Filbert.
Great. I'll be happy to take that back to the team.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Anything else? No? Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. Do we have any public comment on B2?
I did not receive any in person, and we do not have anyone online with their hand raised.
Fantastic. So let's continue on with our agenda with C1 with the City of Reno financial update. Do we have any public comment on this matter?
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
Go.
Good evening, Vicki Van Buren, Director of Finance for the record. I have an update. Did you need something
No,
else?
I was just making sure you were good.
Make sure it runs. We're good. Vicki Van Buren, Director of Finance for the record for the City of Reno. I just have a update for you in general on how the budget process kind of works, what it looks like, an overview of that, and where we're currently at in the process for building next year's budget. So really in the finance department, we spend probably, like to say we spend half the year on budget and we spend half the year on the audit, which are the audited financial statements, putting those financial statements together, going through that audit process. I would say that in the last few years, we probably spend all year on budget, it feels like. Normally we do strategic planning and get prepared to do the budget in November and December, and then we do the budget between January and June, and then between June and December, we do the audit, and we just kind of cycle through that. But it has been challenging these last few years. In the accounting world, as far as governmental accounting, I just want to kind of briefly touch on fund accounting if you're not familiar with it. In government, we use fund accounting, and really fund accounting, what it means is we have different funds that are created for specific purposes. And so in general, I'd like to say that these are like separate checkbooks. So general fund is a checkbook. Special revenue funds, we have a lot of different kinds. This just kind of gives you an example of ones in special revenue funds. Special revenue are ones that are dedicated for a specific purpose, either by law or by policy. So separate checkbooks, again, in that area, because we have to do them separately. And we keep separate books for all of these. Obviously, it rolls up into the city in total, but this is how a government, kind of operates. We have debt funds, we have capital project funds. And then on the proprietary side, these are the ones that kind of run like a business, where we're providing a service, the customer comes in, pays for that service, and then we run it like a business. We also have internal service funds. Those are funds that are run, they're services provided by the city for other departments. For example, the best one kind of on here to look at is the motor vehicle fund. We have city vehicles like police vehicles, fire vehicles. So we have an internal department that actually services and replaces those vehicles. So the departments themselves, like police department, pays into that fund to take care of those vehicles. So we run those like a business as well, because the departments pay in and they get a service for it. And that's really the gist of this slide. The largest fund is the general fund. That's the hardest one to balance each year. That's typically what people think of when they think of the city government. They think of police, fire, emergency dispatch, parks and rec, the facilities. All of those types of things go through the general fund. And that's the one we spend the most amount of time talking about, because that's where we really get challenges as far as budgeting. So for today, I just want to kind of give a high level view of what the current year budgets. This isn't next year's, this is the current year budget that we're operating on. We do operate on a fiscal year, so we start July 1 and it ends June 30. So it's not a calendar year, it's a fiscal year. General fund, as you can see, is about $354 million in total between all of the types of funds that I talked about on the other page. We have $1 billion budget current year. When you look at council, what council sets the strategic plan, and typically they set it for a 5-year range. They're actually in the process right now of reviewing and updating their strategic plan, but these were their strategic priorities that came out of their plan 5 years ago, or actually I think 6 years ago, because they re-upped it for another year and now they're currently working on it. But this is what we look to align the budget to what council is asking for. So if you look at the total budget, that $1 billion budget by function, where does all that money go? We get asked that a lot. Again, like I said, it's Parks and Rec, it's community support, judicial, public safety, general government, which includes like city council, city manager's office, finance, which we're in, HR, all of those things that you still have to have in order to run a government. We have public works, we have maintenance and operations. We obviously have a fund balance or reserves, kind of like the balance in your checkbook. And then we pay debt service, and we also have RDA. We have RDA 1 and RDA 2 as redevelopment agencies that are a part of the city. In total, there are a little over 1,500 employees for the city. And you'll see at the top kind of split between the different funds as far as where those employees, you see those employees. In the general fund of those 1,500 employees, about 1,200 of the employees are in the general fund. And about 852 of those in the general fund, about 70% are just public safety. So that's police, fire, and dispatch. So that's really the priority of council. They've reiterated that over the years, that public safety is their priority. When you look at municipal governments, a lot of times we look at per capita. We like to see how we compare to other agencies as far as number of employees per 1,000 residents. You can see that City of Reno is at 5.3. We're the lowest of all the cities out there at the time of this survey. Most of the cities are between 5 and 6, but again, we're operating with the least amount of employees that we can to still provide the services that the community expects. And we do have challenges. So when you look at our current year budget, we did have to balance our current year budget using some one-time funds. So you see at the top, that little red slice, $9.5 million of one-time funds, basically savings to balance the budget in the current year. C-tax, consolidated tax, it's mostly made up of sales tax, so it's very volatile. Property tax has been very consistent over the years, and franchise fees. Between those three revenue sources, that's over 70% of our budget right there. C-tax and property tax, we don't control at our level as far as local government. That's controlled at the legislature. So it's a challenge because so much of our budget is made up of that. Franchise fees, there was an opportunity to council to make an adjustment to one of those because they do have an opportunity. They recently did that, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But this is our budget. I mean, it's not super complicated, but it is hard to balance when you don't control a lot of the revenue sources, specifically the larger ones. When you look at consolidated tax, I just want to hit on this a little bit. It's the largest revenue source, just going back a number of years. You can see where the recession hit, where you see those big negatives. So this is growth, percent change year over year. And so you'll see those negatives during the recession. Took some time to grow out of that again. And then you'll see on the right-hand side, this is where we are currently. So we saw a flattening that started in fiscal year 23 with that negative 1%. And then going out, we've had 3 and even 2% along, which is better than what we thought we were going to get. We really thought we were going to be flat there for a while following that negative 1%. So we've gotten more, but we really haven't been at that average growth rate, which is about 4%. The growth rate of 4% average is generally occurring because you have new population coming to the area of about 2%. And then you have inflation that occurs. And since most of consolidated tax is sales tax, when you have inflation, as you buy things, you're obviously going to get more money. But this 5-year mark that I've kind of highlighted out here, this is what has created a lot of our challenges over the last couple of years. And I'll talk about that kind of on the next slide. So why is that a challenge for us? Because when you see even if we're not in a recession, if you have revenues that flatten or don't grow at a normal pace, you lose that compounding revenue growth. And this chart was just kind of intended to explain how that happens. So this is a 5-year period. We're in year 4 of this. We're in that 26, and then we're estimating for 27. And so what happens is the dark bars that you see, those would be actuals or what we're anticipating. And then the lighter gray bars, that's how much we would have if we continue to have 4% growth year over year. So that's how much we would have in those years if it continued to grow that way. The difference between that pink area that's highlighted there, that's almost $40 million over a 5-year period. And so that's why this isn't a short-term issue. It's a long-term issue because once you lose those revenues in 1 year, you don't regrow them. You've lost that. So it's the compounding effect of this is really a challenge for the city. That's just one revenue source that's like that. That's consolidated tax, the largest one. You'll see here property tax over the years. It's grown, and you'll see that stepping. That's that compounding growth that you see stepping out there. Franchise fees, you can see declined and have flattened following fiscal year 23. They flattened in 24, and they've declined after that. A lot of that has to do with usage because it's volatile in a similar way as C-tax is volatile based on sales tax. Franchise fees are volatile because a lot of those are based on, a bulk of it is electric and gas usage. So if we have mild weather, mild winters, usage is down, or people choose to dial back. If they have other expenses that cost more and you need money to go there, you'll change your thermostat too. And so I think we're seeing kind of a combination of both of that going on. Business licenses are the 4th largest as far as revenue sources in the general fund. And they flattened from 23 to 24 and even 25, very flat. Again, it's going to fluctuate based on the economy because a lot of the businesses pay on gross receipts. So if the economy is down, if people don't feel like they can go out and spend and they're saving, that's going to show it there as well. So all of these are showing slow revenue growth. The same thing is happening that I showed you on the previous slide to some of these others too, losing that revenue growth. So really what it means, when you disrupt that momentum, you don't just miss out on that year of revenue, you miss out on that future growth potential, and you just don't get it back in the next year. You've lost it, and then you start over basically from scratch. So it's not a short-term problem, although it feels short-term when it's happening. But now we're in the space where, we're talking more about long-term and what that really means long-term and how are we going to weather this as far as the city. The only ways to do it, you reduce expenses, you increase revenues, or you do a combination of both. And that's really what I've talked to council about doing. In the current year budget, we did $16 million of reductions just to balance the budget. Subsequent to those reductions, we did an additional $1.6 million in reductions through another 8 positions that were done through a reduction in force. So after this budget was adopted, those other 8 positions were done after that. And this is a lot of these same things we're doing in the current for next year's budget are the similar things that we're having to do in order to bridge that gap that we're seeing still. What are the priorities as far as council? This is showing the budget by department. So as a total department, police, $112 million, fire, $85 million. This is just the general fund piece of it again. So 64% of the total budget goes just to public safety in the general fund. And then just kind of showing you the same information in a different chart so you can really gauge, can see where the money comes in. It's almost like C-tax, property tax, and franchise fees are the same pieces that you see on this pie here. And there's just really not a lot of space when you start to look to cut. Where can we cut? Where can we go to take from? 80% of the budget is salary and benefits for people because we are service oriented. So a lot of times too, we get the question, so are we investing in infrastructure? What are we doing to build things and make things better? We have $239 million in capital projects in the budget. A lot of this does come from dedicated funding sources like the sewer fund for sewer infrastructure, street fund for neighborhood street program, that resurfacing program. We have some general capital project money that does come from the general fund. That typically goes to building maintenance, parks maintenance, and those types of things. And then we have some RDA money. The redevelopment agencies, up until the last year, haven't had a lot of money in them. During the downturn with the recession, they fund off of property tax. When property taxes went down, there wasn't money there, but we did have debt service in there. So really the money coming in was only paying for debt service. Now we're at a point where there will start to kick off some increment there that can be used. And so you'll start to see some presentations with the redevelopment agency as far as what those projects will look like for that. We do have regional construction tax. These are for parks, and it's only for parks in those specific districts. And it's limited, but it is for parks, and they do find ways to do that. Capital improvement projects, we have what we call capital improvement, which are new things, new buildings, new facilities, or major remodels. And then we have capital maintenance. We have built city buildings. We have all the parks that you see. We have parking lots that are associated with like city facilities or parks. And then we have other assets that we have to maintain as well. So we have a lot of capital maintenance needs and not a lot of money to go around for it because this all comes from the general fund to be able to fund this. Debt history, we get questions on this a lot too. Debt history, it was at a high in 2009 and it was about $625 million at that time. You can see it's broken down on the bottom. The dark blue area is retract debt. That is the undergrounding of the railroad when that project was done to get the railroad from running right through the middle of town to underground it. It was a very expensive project. We will be paying on that for a very long time. The dark gray kind of area in the middle, the other big section, because those are really the two big areas that we have on here for debt. That is the event center, the National Bowling Stadium, and the ballroom. So those are in that gray area. And again, very large facilities, very long-term debt. We'll be paying on those for a while too, but that's where the majority of the debt is. We have some sewer debt that's out there for sewer infrastructure, and we are actually issuing debt. We're scheduled to issue debt next month for the American Flats Advanced Purified Water Facility for that piece of the project. That's a joint effort with TUMWA, with Truckee Meadows Water Authority. And so that is scheduled for this year. And then general obligation debt, the debt we currently have in there, and we've had different debt in there over the years, but the current debt that's in there, $60 million bond that was issued for the Moana Pool and the Public Safety Center for police. And then we have the fire apparatus debt for their fire apparatus program that's in that kind of orange area. We often get, hey, are you paying down debt? This is the same information, just put on a different scale. So you can really see, yes, we are paying down debt. We are being responsible with it. So back in 2009, we were at $625 million at that point. We are down to about $425 million right now. We will be issuing that $70 million debt here this year. So advanced purified. So that's in the blue in the current year. But it just shows you it should ebb and flow because as we pay down debt and then you do new facilities, it should ebb and flow like that. But we did have a lot of debt back in 2009 and 10, the way it was structured. Bond ratings. What does this mean? Bond ratings are kind of like your credit score as an individual. The better your rating, the more options you have for financing, the better financing options that you'll get as far as when you need to do those big projects and we need to go out and get loans for it. We are in the AAA rating. We have moved up several grades over the last few years. AAA is the highest grade rate, is the high grade rating. It's a very good rating. We are able to get debt and issue bonds at very good rates. It's very critical and important because this is assigned to those issuing agencies that we are stable, we're strong, we're managing what we have. Yes, we have challenges, but yeah, it's a good thing. Looking ahead, so what are we doing for building the budget for next year? Next year, like I said, we're doing a lot of the same things that we did last year. The real change that we're doing this year, there's a couple of them. We did zero-based budgeting for all the departments where they had to start from scratch and really build out their budgets. We found about $3 million by doing that, really limiting the funds and trying to limit some of the expenditures. We're also budgeting for vacancy savings. So it's typical, a lot of agencies do budget for vacancy savings. So say a person leaves a position and then they need to fill that position. There'll be a time period from when that position stays vacant. Most of the savings that we see is not in the salary piece of it, but it's in the benefits. So someone leaves and retires, we have to pay out any banks that they have, vacation and such. So that's salaries. But in the benefits, we won't be paying for their retirement. We're not paying for their health insurance. So most of the savings comes from the benefit piece when a position is vacant and then the point it gets rehired. And so anywhere from 1% to 3% is usually what agencies use. We've been around typically around 2.5% for the last couple of years. I'm comfortable recommending at this point 2%, but depending on what it looks like, we're still evaluating that. But the workup we have right now is using a 2% vacancy rate. We have not typically budgeted for that in the past. There are some downsides to it. If there's a change in the economy, if there are fluctuations of any kind, it does limit our resources as far as risk. So it elevates the risk in the budget because we don't have as much room to flex if something happens. For example, when the economy kind of flattened, we held positions open. We created savings in a way to cover the gap as we anticipated occurring. This will limit us more in that, and so we will just have to be very diligent as we continue to watch the budget, which we're obviously doing, but I am comfortable at that 2% rate. We are deferring any additional funding for OPEB or workers' comp. Those were where we were trying to build up to offset the future liabilities. It doesn't mean the current liabilities aren't being paid. They are. It's to try to offset future liabilities, which are very large out into the future. And then we're using some one-time funding from projects that were closed out to do the annual maintenance and capital. That capital item that I just talked about earlier about general capital, we don't have anything extra in the budget to put toward this, so we are using some one-time funds from some projects that closed out that were capital projects previously. This is the last time that we can do that as well. And then sanitation franchise fees, I did bring that back to council on February 11th. They did agree to change the rate from 8% to 14%, which is in line with what Sparks charges. Sparks changed theirs last year. And what that does for our budget, it brings in about $5 to $5.5 million of ongoing money. And that's really helping us bridge this gap because with the first roll up of the budget, we were about $24 million short between revenues and expenses. What you see here is really bridging that gap. So now we basically have a balanced budget at this point. There are some things that are still missing though. So when you look at this was the roll up from January. So this was prior to council approving the sanitation, the waste management franchise fee increase. So we had a projected difference of the $4.4 million. They approved the increase to waste management franchise fee. That's going to bring in about $5 to $5.5 million for next year. So really that's going to offset this projected difference. We have about $700,000 or so right now to the good. However, we don't have included, if you see on the bottom over here, we don't have any agreements with the IAFF, which is the firefighters group, so collective bargaining agreements. We're currently in negotiations with them for the current year and for next year. So there's kind of 2 years there for that. And then Local 39, which is the supervisory and the non-supervisory group, they opened theirs up. Theirs is open for fiscal year 27. So we know theirs through this year, but not for next year. And we have not built anything in for that. So right now we have a balanced budget, but we know we still have some outstanding items, and we will be talking to council about that and how to address that. But yeah, that's where we're at. This was the forecast prior to council approving the increase to the waste management franchise fee. Fund balance is shown in the dark blue bar here. And fund balance, we do it as a percentage of operating expenses. And what we want to see in fund balance, which is basically the balance in your checkbook, we need a balance in the checkbook just to pay bills on a daily basis. A lot of our large revenue sources only come in quarterly. And so our revenues don't come in at the same rate as our bills are due. So we get a quarterly payment for property tax, but we won't get another one until the next quarter, but we still have to make payroll and everything else in between. And so what we really need on hand is about 2 months worth of operating expenses, which what we call here fund balance. And that equates to about 16.6% is 2 months worth of fund balance. And so once we get below 10%, it becomes very challenging for us to pay bills as they come through the door. We start to have to manage the bills as far as holding bills 30 days, 45 days, and paying them that way. We don't currently do that. A bill comes through the door, we pay it when it's due. We have been in the position a long time ago where we had to pay, hold things and pay them. I don't want to get below that 10% mark. So this was the way I showed council is if without doing franchise fees and without doing any more cuts outside of what we've already done, identified, this is the outlook. We hit that 10% mark in fiscal year 28, and then, we're obviously below it in 29. Below 4%, we can't go below that. That's NRS minimum, can't do it. We couldn't function. We would be insolvent at that point, and the state would take over. Once council approved the franchise fee, this slide looks more like we come to that 10% mark in the middle. So we don't dip down all the way to the below, but we're right at that 10% mark as we go along. It's not perfect. We clearly have a lot more work to do, and that's really the point of this, to show them that this is not just a short-term fix. Yay, we've done the budget. It's a long-term problem that we're going to have as we go forward because we lost all of those compounding revenues coming up. Because expenditures, you go out to the store, things cost more. They continue to cost more year over year. But when your paycheck kind of flattens, you don't get that back. And so that's really the real problem. Upcoming, we have a workshop tomorrow. The council budget workshop, it will be an all-day workshop starting at 10 a.m. We'll be going through similar information, but more updated than what you saw here, because the last update they had was that $4.4 million. Now we'll be rolling it all together. But really the major change was just the franchise fees. So we're looking at a balanced budget right now, but we still have some outstanding items, and we need to get council's view and input on what are the priorities, what do they want to see as we move forward, and how do they want to bridge the gap as we continue to try to bring this back in line on a long-term basis. Our tentative documents due on April 15th to the state, and then we'll have another budget overview on May 6th and a public hearing on May 20th, which is the actual budget adoption. I do come before council the second meeting of every month, and I will continue to do that through this process. It's not listed on here, but I will have updates as we go along during that too, where council can provide discussion and information, and then the city manager will direct to me what she feels that the council wants and what we can afford and what we do and recommend as we come forward. Because the budget itself is the manager's budget and is recommended by the manager. So she will give that direction based on council. And if that wasn't enough fabulous budget information for you, this is the budget online. If you go to Reno.Gov, and then if you go under the department section under finance, we have a digital budget book where you can get a lot more information on budget. You can dive down into the charts. You can look at all kinds of stuff in there if you want to look at lots of stuff. So yeah, I'm available for questions.
Marie Rodriguez, thank you. That was very detailed and a lot of good information. I like numbers. I noticed that you do show like how bad things got during the recession, and I know that was across the country. I've actually been listening to some information about how that came about, and it's really very interesting because it was kind of something that some people who were able to forecast that was going to happen, and when it happened, you know, and impacted the whole country. I didn't really notice, and I wasn't really looking for it until after you went past the slide, but I was wondering also like how COVID affected it. Because I know that at that point, for the first time ever in history, I think our casinos closed. And I know that we get revenue from that, don't we, from the casinos?
We actually don't get any gaming revenue. The
Okay.
state gets that.
Oh, so it goes to the state. Yeah, that makes sense.
The state had
Okay.
more challenges as far as
But we do get like the room tax from people coming to the casinos that have hotels.
we do, and
Uh-huh.
you know, room tax was zero
Mhm.
at that time. But room tax, the room tax that we have pays for debt, some of it, and some of it has reserves on it. So we were able to weather that because it wasn't, you know, it was a short period. Had it been a longer period of time, once they reopened, debt revenue starts coming back in. It's different than a recession as far as when it falls off and then it has to grow back. Basically it closed. We didn't get money for a little bit of time, but those funds have reserves in them. We still paid the debt, and then they came back online. As far as like consolidated tax for sales tax revenue, really, we didn't know what was going to happen. And so we held all positions for a while trying to see what's going to happen during COVID. And really what actually happened was quite different, I think, than what anybody would have thought because of all the stimulus money. So I don't know if you could bring back up that slide. It was pretty cool, or pretty interesting. It's back to the slide. You'll see what actually happened during COVID is we got a lot of money through sales tax. So look at fiscal year 21 and 22, 19% growth.
Yeah.
And then 10% growth. That's all the stimulus checks. That's all the money flowing into the economy. And then we flatlined after that because we didn't continue to grow on top of that, but we grew as an organization into that. And so that was a problem.
Interesting how that happened. Do we work, and I guess it would be not just Reno, but Reno and Sparks, but is there any communication between like the people that work in tourism for our area, trying to bring people in, trying to get them to spend, trying to get them to stay at our rooms? How does that work to try to work with them to help the budgets for both cities?
Right. No, there's a lot of work on that. EDON does a lot of work on that. So does the RSCVA. They do a lot of work on that as well. The Reno Sparks Convention Center. I mean, that's their main job, is to bring people to this area, to get them in. You know, historically, I've been with the city almost 10 years now. We really haven't seen a growth in room tax at all because we've lost rooms. So when you look at rooms in total, we lost Harrah's. We don't have rooms for that. Throughout the city, we still get almost the same amount of room tax, but we don't get really more than that because we've lost rooms. We get about the same amount because the rooms that we do have gone up over the years, but it really hasn't grown. And we see a lot of tourism, but I don't know that tourism's really growing. It's about the same. It really isn't growing. And there are a lot of organizations doing things to try to bring people here, but it just really is not growing.
I think there's a possibility that maybe people staying at B&Bs is affecting that. And if that's the case, is it legal or possible, or anybody looked into taxing people who advertise B&Bs?
That could be part of the issue. I know that business license is looking into that. They brought several items before council, and they are looking at that, how to regulate it. But that it would be very hard to try to figure out how to regulate and time intensive and other things. So they are looking at it. It's challenging.
Corey Munson, thank you for that presentation. That was super interesting. I just wanted a clarifying question on the franchise fee for the sewers. Is that just the utilities that residents pay? I'm just not sure. I don't know what that is.
Franchise fee on the user fees. So not on the connection fee side of it, but the user fee side of it, similar to, because we have franchise fees that are for electric, it's for utilities, basically. So we have electric, gas, cable TV, a telephone, sewer, and then the waste management. So we have 6 of them. And so for the most part, those others are 5% of gross receipts. And then those are set at the legislative level, not at the city level. The only one that the city controls is really the waste management one. And so that's why that was the one that was brought forward to council, because it was really the only area where we could make strides in real dollars. I mean, we can look at the fee schedule. We can change a fee from $3 to $4, or we can change some of the fees on the fee schedule. Even if you change a fee and we can recoup $200,000 on it, we're looking at $1 billion budget. It's not enough to make an impact for the things that we need. And really the waste management fee, bringing it in line with our other local jurisdiction, $5.5 million annually, and it will continue to grow because waste management has a CPI index on it. They set their rates, and then we get ours on the gross receipts. So it's really the only area where council could make a real impact long-term as a long-term policy decision.
That was my question. That was just an interesting lever to pull, and I was curious what the history for that was.
That's why.
Because you indicated earlier, there was not that many levers.
There's not much space to go. Yes, we have a fee schedule, and you can look at it. It's pretty thick, and you can change some of those on there. But dollar-wise, it just doesn't make a large enough impact.
And then the last little thing I wanted to ask at the end of that are there other tiny levers that are kind of weird and interesting that you folks have looked at?
Well, I mean, like the budgeting for vacancy savings. So we're looking at all different things. It's not just one thing in one box, like a expense. We're going to cut everything all together. We're looking at different ways of budgeting or different ways to do things, revenues. We're looking at everything that we can to make sure that we're doing the best practice and we're doing the best thing for the city.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anthony Dispensary, just a follow-up question on what he had mentioned. For the waste management fee, how does that 14% compare nationally? I know we're sort of mirroring Sparks, but how does that compare in other states and jurisdictions, out of curiosity?
I'm not sure. I mean, I know in Nevada, as far as other local agencies and things that we're doing, but I don't know how other budgets are. I worked in California previously, and so in California, our property taxes were done differently. It's a different system depending on the area, state.
Lauren Kroll for the record. I'm curious if you know the C-tax growth, is that in line with other cities across the country, like outside of Nevada?
It will, It will fluctuate based on, because this consolidated tax is just for Nevada. So it's gathered from every jurisdiction in Nevada, and then it's distributed out in total. So state collects it all, then they distribute it out to all the agencies. And so they have this pretty complicated calculation as far as distribution method. It's based on population and where the retail sale was. So there's a lot of different factors that factor into it. So they take the pot and then they distribute it out. We do fluctuate a little different than other areas, even within the state, because, for example, we do a little bit better, I think, than Vegas. A lot of times, even especially now, because Vegas is struggling with tourism. And so much of their economy is based on tourism. Ours used to be many years ago, but we've really diversified. So tourism doesn't necessarily float our sales and our sales tax and things. So we had really worried about that during the recession, and we still continue to see, spending, not just from the surplus money that was in the system, but because we're not so reliant like Vegas is or Clark County on gaming and such. Nationwide, I look at that a lot, just to answer kind of your question a little more. Nationwide, we tend to, if they say, you hear there's a strong December, strong spending for the holidays and things, we will see that, but we'll see it in relation to how ours is, not necessarily how. If it's strong spending for us, that might mean something a little different than for like Utah or some other place, but it tends to kind of flow that way.
And is this in line with the economy? Is that why this is lower? Okay, thanks.
It is.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
No?
Thank
you so much. Appreciate it. All right. So, let's continue on with our agenda with letter D, board, commission, and committee member reports, announcements, and discussion for future agenda items. Anybody have anything cool to share with the group?
Marie Rodriguez. Yeah, just a few things that are coming up this month that sound kind of fun. On the 14th, we have the Leprechaun Crawl. As we are going to have St. Patrick's Day this month on the 17th. Also, I noticed that the city of Reno has posted the beginning of the biggest little spring cleanup, which is always very handy if you decide you want to start cleaning out your garage, like we're talking about garages and making room. It looks like the one for March is going to be on the 21st, but I didn't notice which high school it's going to be at or which park. But if we go to our city website, we can look that up. And I did want to mention, especially I noticed a lot of people noticed how our police department is a big part of the budget. If you want to learn more about what the police department does day to day, they do offer ride-alongs to our local citizens. So if you're interested in seeing what it's like a day in the life of the police officer, you can sign up for a ride-along on the Reno Police Department website.
Marie, it looks like that March 21st cleanup is at Wooster from 9 to 12.
Get a reminder for the record. I do want to second that with what Marie just shared with us. Those ride-alongs do not change your perspective, but gives you a different look into what what our officers go through. Sometimes it's kind of easy to have an opinion from one point of view, but once you get to see a little bit of their world and what they go through, and have conversations with the officers for for the 6 or 8 hours that you're with them, it puts a lot of things into perspective, and what makes you have a more educated um uh opinion regarding our police force and what they do for our city. There's always going to be good and bad, but I always try to look for the good, and I do believe that we have a good police force. Do they need to change things or do certain things a different way? Absolutely. I think no police department is perfect, but I think if you participate in those ride-alongs, and I think they're going to continue to have community outreach events this fall, next couple months. And so, same deal. Just go out there, hear what they have to say, and hear what's going on. Hear also from different wards, different perspectives around the city, different citizens and constituents have different hear what they have to say as well, and it gives you better knowledge about what's going on with the department.
Maria Rodriguez. Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to remind everybody. Filing for local candidates who are running in the midterms has started. So they've started popping up on social media announcing who's running. So it's just a reminder to start paying attention to who our candidates is. And if you're able to vote during the primary, you should do that. So it's time to start paying attention to what's going on in our local government.
Anthony Dispensary, just appreciate the opportunity to have the meeting with Councilmember Martinez on the 4th. Fortunately, I won't be in town. I'm traveling. So hopefully some of the other folks can attend, and maybe we'll look for other opportunities to do this in the future and maybe more of a regular basis. I'm excited about that opportunity. So hopefully most of you guys or a lot of you can attend. Thank you.
Well, I won't be here attending a neighborhood meeting community tomorrow, but this is my neighborhood. But I wish I could attend a meeting tomorrow, but I did not realize the meeting was rescheduled until today. I did not realize, but I think the school district need to communicate with family like 1 week earlier in advance to go to the neighborhood community meeting, or else I don't know where community meeting is, or the board or any community have little no voice what to say about the design of their new elementary school design due to my work conference. So
All right, I think we're good. Do we have any? Oh, sorry.
I'm Nitad. Lauren Croft for the record. I just wanted to share the Western Lights Festival 2 weekends ago. I think like the 19th to the 21st was really cool. I don't know if this was the second or third time they had it. Second time. Last year was great. This year was even better. So thank you to the city for this amazing festival that's free and really fun, and welcome to all ages. It was fantastic.
All right. Do we have any public comment in person or online?
I do not have any public comment. No.
All righty. So let's go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Can I get a motion in a second from our amazing and super NAB members, please?
Jurgen Hohen, a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody nay? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody.